Are we in the twilight zone, like, or deja vu or something? Because this is feeling very similar to the beginning of 2025, the end of February, what has happened in January and February to date. The statistics are out. Allow me to interpret them with you in today's video, so please stay tuned. Well, first you're probably wondering where I am. I took a tour of some fabulous model homes in Lakewood Ranch, and it wasn't too far from Waterside here. And if you haven't been to Waterside yet, it is just a great spot, and it is on the water. That's why I call it Waterside. Actually, the house that we videoed, the $6 million John Cannon house, is like 2 blocks from here. So in relation to that video, check that out, by the way, if you haven't already. So as per usual, I have not seen the stats, but I like to look at single family Sarasota County homes, because condos, as you're seeing, and you're probably witnessing, especially if you own a condo, if you purchased a condo or you're watching the condo market, is more volatile over time. So the best indicator of the markets are generally looking at the single family home statistics, and it gives you a better gauge, a more realistic gauge of like what's happening and what could be transpiring in the future down the road. So months of supply, you guys know I like to start there. Let's look at January 2025. We were at 6.4 months of inventory, and now we're at 5 months as we sit here at the end of February 2026, okay? What that means is it's a good thing, I think, because honestly, last year at this time, sellers were still not feeling like their values are less, I guess. I don't know what I was trying to say there. Maybe they had the expectation that they would get more for their property than they realistically would. So honestly, like, a settling down of the available options is a good thing, because we've had such issues with 2 things: affordability and the sheer number of buyers in the marketplace. And I talk a lot about those 2 things in some of my videos as of late. We touched on that a little bit in the video that I recently did with Ryan Vlass at Cole Banker. That's in the playlist. If you look at the 93% migration video, we talk about that and how that impacts our buyers and sellers. So anyway, the good news is our area has become more affordable because prices have come down year over year. And what generally is more of a better gauge in terms of how the buyers feel, and the sellers too actually feel about the values of their home, is more like median price versus average, because again, we have like big skews up and down in the marketplace at any given year. So median price went down 7.5%. Last year at this time it was $529,750. Current median sales price, closed sales price, is $490,000. Okay, this does not include Lakewood Ranch. Lakewood Ranch is in Manatee County for the most part, so we're not really including that. And remember though, it's very hyper local. To put some of this into perspective, I have 1 listing right now, 1 coming up. Both of them are listed at what they paid for the homes in 2021. So that means they're losing money, okay? So they bought in 2021, listed 5 years later at the same price they paid. So after expenses, their net is less, right? But it is what it is. I mean, there's a strong argument to make that last August 1st, sometime in August 2025, was the bottom of the market. Now, nobody could time that, but it feels like that could be true. Obviously, hindsight, in looking back, we were trying to figure that out at the time. So I think that like the start of this year is just a little bit slower, but I'm really starting to see increases in activity. Sellers are more realistic in their pricing, which is a huge part of this. And as a realtor, it is so important for me to educate the sellers. You know, I think right now I'm the second or the third agent on like half of my listings right now. And by the way, I have some really great inventory, existing inventory. I've got a couple under contract, which I'm excited because we lowered the prices. You know what I mean, guys? And some incredible ones coming in like all price ranges. So don't feel like you have to be a multimillionaire to call me. I've got stuff in the low 200s, 300s, up into the multi-millions, from beachfront to island to mainland and new construction, vacant lots, everything in between. Okay, so I love the diversity in what I do. Some people like to stick to one neighborhood. I just think, I don't know, I've never done my business that way, and I like the variety and everything. And I feel like buyers, like, here's a great example. One of my Minnesota key listings on the Bay, I had listed, this is like a year and a half ago now. The buyer came from Anna Maria. So like, you know, maybe they're sick of this island. They want to come on down to the quiet Minnesota side, and vice versa, right? They might want some more action. They might want a rental property. And so by having an agent that knows all these islands, like, you can quickly pivot your buyers to one of your other listings, you know? So it's a great thing. And my sellers, I know, appreciate that, because your buyer, the migration inside of Florida is really good. So a lot of activity within the state of Florida. And I could talk to you in great depth about that with the data that I have on my listings. It showcases a lot of the buyers are just right here. So it's crazy. It's awesome. We've got some great tools. Let's look at cash. Last year at this time, 257 closed single family homes in Sarasota, and now down by 7.4%. We closed 238 cash transactions end of January, as we report here end of February. So also the total dollar volume is down by 3.5%. And that makes sense because sellers are more realistic. Case in point, pricing for 2021 numbers. And buyers understand that they have more leverage, because properties that are on the market longer as well, think about it, a buyer's going to have more leverage there, right? And we are starting to see longer days on the market. I don't know what they are. What does it say? Medium time to contract. Okay, from the time you list to the time you go to contract, on average, median, 48 days. And then usually your closings are 30 to 45 days. Typically not longer than that, unless there's like some unique situation. Closing within 96 days. That's really not bad. I mean, we're seeing a lot of properties on the market for 3 months, 6 months, depending on the price band of your property. I hate that. Depending on the price band of your property, obviously, as you go from 2 to 3 million, 3 to 5 million, 5 to 10 million, there's not as many buyers, okay, just in the world, right? The number of buyers that can afford those properties is less and less, so they might take longer and longer. Now, there are properties in that upper tier, like the highest price sale in Sarasota County that sold for just over 30 million, was not on the market very long. It had a lot of press, you know, it had a lot of activity, and the agent and the buyer were right nearby. See, that's another case in point. So the bottom line as a seller, I cannot stress this enough, you know, got to do it with my hands. Pricing it $1 under appraisal will actually give you a higher net cash in your bank account in the end. And I know how hard that is to actually put into practice, because a seller 90% of the time wants to say to me, we can always reduce it. We can price it, and this is not the time to test the market out. Buyers understand the market. Buyers know that there's been a lot of adjustments. They see how many days your property's been on the market. Do you want to list it or do you want to sell it? So one of the properties I have coming up, and it's hard to explain without saying exactly where, but I told the person that their property was worth 1.648. They listed it for 2.2. It sat. They lowered it to just under 2 million, and they pulled it off the market. And he said, Shayla, I wish I would have listed I wish I would have listed with you, and you were right. And, you know, obviously to some degree that is satisfying, but at the same time, if we would have listed it at the price I recommended at the time, ultimately, because it's worth less now, we would price it less now, he would have kept more in his pocket. And as a seller, ultimately, isn't that your goal? You know, there's a cost of doing business. And remember, you're paying for maintenance, you're paying taxes, insurance, maybe you're renovating, like all these things cost and time. Time is our biggest asset, right? And all this time has gone by. Now we're going to reposition, remarket, and then try to get the right buyer, the right price. And you're just better off ripping the Band-Aid off and pricing it well. So that being said, like I told you, I've got some really great inventory on the market right now. And I have some, let's call it shadow inventory, right? I've got properties that are kind of like sellers that will sell if I happen to find the buyer. So if you're looking for golf course, I have one. If you're looking for a siesta key rental, high turnover rental weekly, I have that under 400. I have 2 brand new properties on Minnesota Key on the very south end, brand spanking new in 2025, never lived in, brand new. Okay, no storm damage, none of it, brand new. So these are shadow inventory properties that I have. And like I said, I work the gamut. So I don't want you to feel like if your property's not luxury or you think that I won't call you back. I always call people back. It's silly. I don't understand agents that don't. And if I can't do it for some reason, obviously it's probably not in my market, or I can find somebody that will, right? So we'll have a solution no matter what. And I have a really great Airbnb in Nokomis for $450. I have a condo in the Revo building. This property is a really smoking deal because it's listed for $689. The gentleman passed away. He paid $700 for it, put $100 into it, and it's so that's $800 right there. Well, we have it listed for $689, and there's no crazy assessments, no crazy whatever. It's downtown Sarasota. It's great, and the building's it's about 20 years old, so it's like fairly new according to like island standards. Anyway, I have my Weber property is under contract. That's a brand new property on Weber Street listed for $1.125. That's under contract, so hopefully that goes through. I have an amazing, I think this, if I had $1 million to spend on real estate, I would buy 6841 Longboat Drive South because it's so unique. It has over 1/3 acre. It has RSF 6 zoning, which means compared to the other properties even up the road, which are RSF, just RSF, you can build a home, a guest house, and put a pool there. And it's on the water. It's walk to the beach. You can rebuild. You can use the cottage. The cottage is so cute. Also in my playlist. All of these listings I have are in the playlist. All of them. I know I'm missing others, but I could go on and on. Every listing I take gets a YouTube tour with yours truly. Let's see what else. What am I missing? I'm going to be taking a tour of a pretty phenomenal, unique Oyster Bay Estates home, 26 million. Stay tuned for that video, that tour, and we're going to talk about luxury market insights in that video next week. So stay tuned for that. And just a shout out to the people that have been watching. Thank you for your loyalty, for watching, subscribing, sharing. It really means a lot to me and I appreciate it. So ultimately I want you to call me, right? This is what I do. I sell real estate. This is all I've done for almost 24 years. It'll be this summer. Weird. I want you to call me. You can refer people to me, and if I can't help them, like I said, I will point them in the right direction. I got a call this morning from somebody. She's like, you know, I called you out of the blue. I needed an attorney. You were so nice. And then I was driving by. I saw one of your for sale signs. And she's like, the Lord spoke to me and I had to call you because my boyfriend, I think, wants to sell his house. I was like, you know, that's awesome. I love that. I love when people just call out of the blue. You know, that's how this all works. And I appreciate it. So if you do need to reach me, call or text 941-544-7690. You're welcome to email me too. It's Shayla Twit SHAYLATWIT @gmail.com.